Good afternoon. This is Talking Trades Live with On the Tools, the weekly show where all you trades have the opportunity to get all your thoughts, comments, anger, whatever's going on at work off your chest. My name's Andy. I'll be your host for the next half hour or so. Joining me this week, he's becoming a bit of a regular. He's got to be with a name like Andy. Andy Wilcox, electrician, marketing guru, and you'll be pleased to hear he's following suit with my horrendous haircut because the barbers aren't open. And also joining me, a far more glamorous Beth, who is an apprentice bricklayer, coming to the end of her apprenticeship, nearly fully qualified. And today's show is talking about apprenticeships. Good, bad, ugly. Where can we improve? What is good? We'll be looking at the levy. Who understands it? Is it clear enough? Please send comments in. My apologies if I don't read them all out. They literally come in by the hundreds. Already they're flying through. Good day from Australia, Ross Jocko Jockheim. Great name, mate. I don't know what time it is with you, but thanks for joining. First of all, Beth, why a bricklayer?
I think because I did groundworks when I was 16. So originally I wanted to be a property developer, but I did multi-skilled. But the apprenticeship that got me was like civil engineering, groundworks, like digging up tarmac, concrete, drainage, just everything like that. So I think being on site like that and being hands-on and, just being able to be free in construction and build, that's what sort of led me to wanting to be a bricklayer. Plus the multi-skilled showed like bits of bricklaying, so I did like little bits and pieces there. So yeah, that was mainly the reason that drew me to it.
And just quickly, how far are you through the apprenticeship? You're nearly there, aren't you, in terms of being fully qualified?
Yeah, I'm level 3 right now, but I was due to qualify in September, but I think it's been moved to October. But, with everything that's going on, the end date might be a little bit here on here.
Now, Andy, obviously you're a regular on the show. Apprenticeships, as we know, is close to your heart and mine. What's your view on apprenticeships in the current offering we were talking about this off air, small businesses against big businesses? It seems if you're a bigger firm, it's a little bit more biased towards that. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm only work for myself. I would love to take an apprentice on, but I just know that I wouldn't do him any justice because I'm always flying around everywhere, to go to places, trying to do things as fast as I can. If I had an apprentice, I'd want to stop and show them everything, and that just wouldn't be profitable for me. I just couldn't do that. So I'd feel terrible for having an apprentice because I just wouldn't have the time to show them stuff. But I did my apprentice with a big electrical contractor down in the south, and it was fantastic because they had so many different departments. I could go and work in every department, which I think should be part of an apprenticeship. I went and worked in the office for 2 weeks to see how they quoted jobs and how they typed stuff up. But I just wouldn't be able to do that. So I think if you could do an apprenticeship, it would be better to do it with a large organisation because they have more places they can send you with. And when you're working on your own, you've got to be with that person all the time and give them your attention, which I don't feel I could do as working on myself.
Well, Katie Louise Brown, she's done 3 apprenticeships. She's just sent a message in: business admin, arts, curation, events management, now railway engineering. Out the 3, she absolutely loves her current role on the railway. She can't recommend apprenticeships enough. So, Beth, do you feel your apprenticeship, you've gained as much from it as you want? Would you like to spend more time in the classroom or on the trail? What's your view been the last 3 years?
Well, with my apprenticeship, I just go to college 1 day a week. So the other 4 days I'm with like my gang and on site. So I feel like that's the biggest benefit, being with the pet. Like if I was in college a lot more, I don't think I'd be where I am skill wise, because you don't learn everything in college. You learn stuff from people that have got 25 plus years of experience. You can't compare the two. So for me personally, I've learned a lot more the way my apprenticeship's been set out. So yeah, I agree with the comment. I couldn't have recommended them more, especially mine, the way it's being laid out for us all.
Well, there's a question. I think Becky, you're probably Beth, your best to answer is from Becky J. She's got 4 boys. I love her thoughts on life. Desperate for them to get into the trades. She wants them to build her a house. How did you get into your apprenticeship, and what advice would you give youngsters or parents with youngsters looking to get into them?
I think I think it's difficult because I think there's a lack of I don't think trades are promoted well enough, and I don't think there's enough support for people that want to get in trades. You know, a lot of people that I've spoke to when I've been to different events say they want to get into civil engineering. You go, okay, so what part of civil engineering? And they're like, I don't know, I don't really know what it is. And like, I don't think the steps are there to help young people to get into apprenticeships. Like they say they want one, but then they don't know how to get from there. And I know a lot of colleges, when you enroll, you have to have a company ready. Like you have to find the company, and then they enroll you into onto the college course. So to expect a young person that knows nothing about construction to set that up for themselves is a bit ridiculous. I think it's left a lot to the young people and the parents, and then they'll miss out on opportunities. So I think more support is needed.
Well, Andy, this is a great question for you. J.M. Hayes, my view, obviously you're a Spark. Sparks and plumbers can do a lot of their apprenticeships classroom based. J.M. Hayes, sorry, his quote's just flown off because they're coming in. J.M. Hayes has said you gain the qualifications, for example, electricians, plumbers, separately with no experience. No one touches you because of site experience. What's your view on that? Do you think site experience is more valuable than sitting in a classroom?
Oh, crikey. Yeah, you could go and I've met so many people that have just done a 4-week course and they've never touched any real tools in life. I mean, the classroom stuff is the theory stuff, isn't it? And when you're in the classroom and you have your own little bay and you've got like a nice piece of wood on there and you get to do your own little thing under no stress and under a lovely fluorescent light. And then when you go out, it's the real world. You've got to crawl for an attic. You've got to think, how am I going to get that there? And you take a floorboard up, and like the whole thing's like a spider's web underneath. Nothing can beat being on site. So that's where you learn everything on site, don't you? So that but when you have to that question there, when people say they won't touch you, I don't know how upfront you are with, if you walk onto a site and you say, oh yeah, I've got this qualification. I guess it's down to the manager on the building site that asks you, well, have you got any experience actually on a building site, or have you just been? Sometimes you could just make that up, couldn't you? It's hard to prove whether you've got any experience until you start getting your tools out, and then you can make a complete dick of yourself because you don't know what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah, I think it falls a lot down to the problem solving, doing it on site. Like in college, it's easy. Like you just, but like when you get on site, the amount of problems you have to try and overcome, and then mistakes, and if they don't know how to solve it, it's then the lack of experience. So it's definitely a lot different.
Well, it's the real world against what I call the sort of fluffy world, isn't it? You're in a classroom. I mean, look at today. It's pouring down here. You can imagine on a site, you're going to be ankle deep in mud, slipping and sliding. You've got the labourer falling into the line, knocking all the bricks over. Everything's a lot harder than in a perfectly laid out classroom where you've got it all perfectly set out. Phil Reeves has said an interesting comment, and I think this sadly is to the detriment of apprentices. His old boss just used an apprentice till the final year, then gave them a boot. Cheap labour, he said. Wasn't a fan of him, let's say. But that's sadly what can happen. Beth, have you seen this where people are taken on as apprentices and then given the boot, or have you luckily just been in a sort of good spot where people are kept on?
I think a lot of the time as well, apprentices use cheap labour, especially with bricklaying. They'll get them bumping out, loading out boards, and then a lot of apprentices don't say anything. So then when it gets to the end of their apprenticeship and they're due to be qualified, it's right, you've been sacked and now you're going self-employed and now good luck trying to earn your own money kind of thing. And it's just, it's brutal. Like the fact that the support like after an apprenticeship and sometimes during is lacking. So I think apprentices can often be taken advantage of when it comes to money. And especially like you said, with a small company, there's no way you can expect a small company to fund for an apprentice. They've also they've probably got families, they've got stuff they've got to pay out for that big companies don't. So you can understand apprentice comes along, cheap labour, and there's no wonder it happens.
There's another viewer, another comment, apologies, just dropped off my screen. Andrew Maslin, he got laid off less than a month before the end of his apprenticeship. What I want to ask you, Andy, the flip side to this, between contractors laying off apprentices because it's cheap labour, is apprentices coming on, doing well, like Beth, give it 6-12 months after they're qualified and then setting up on their own. That company, if it's a small firm, loses out. So it kind of works both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the worry with contractors taking on apprentices. I know that's in the electrical industry now, and in the plumbing, I'm sure that most contractors are worried that they're going to take apprentices on and they're just going to go and set up their own business. Because I think when I did my apprenticeship, it did seem to be like big contracting companies that did all the work. But now it seems to be that everybody is like a one-man band. And I know previously when I've had employees before, and this person was an adult trainee, actually not an apprentice, that he was saying to my customers when I was around, well, if I set up on my own business, would you give me some work? So that's always a worry when you've got an apprentice, I suppose. And I think that probably happens quite a lot. But I am interested about that guy saying that he was laid off. Because I thought that was, I might be wrong on this. I thought it was illegal to lay off apprentices. I don't know the law, but morally is not right anyway, is it?
Well, this is another subject for another show, because the employment law in construction is never adhered to. People are laid off all the time for no reasons. If you're in an office, you've got constructive dismissal and all the rest of it. So be interesting to hear. I think it was Andrew Maslin was his name. If you could let us know, just send a quick comment why you got laid off or the reasons being. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with all these comments. It is brilliant. Thank you for getting in touch. Today, we're talking about apprenticeships in our great industry, construction, good, bad, ugly. What level are you at? Do you prefer being on the tools or in a classroom? My name is Andy. Joining me this week, we've got Andy Wilcox, electrician, marketing guru extraordinaire, and we've got Beth, who's soon going to be one of the best bricklayers out there, judging by what she's been saying. Social media, she's got a lot of great posts. Certainly always good to interact with people on there. Apprenticeships, Bruno Brenchley. Apprenticeships are fine as long as they're used and taught correctly by the company and the tutor agency. If we don't invest time and effort into the apprenticeship scheme, we'll end up like the States, people only being able to do one task. Beth, I'll ask you first. Do you agree with that? Because as you say, you started off doing multi, then ended up as a bricklayer. Do you think that's a fair comment?
Yeah, but then I think it's like, again, there's so many different sides to it. It's like, who can you expect to give up the time? But like I said before, you've got to initially give up that bit of time. You've got to sacrifice that to then, benefit from the apprentice when they've got the skills and they've progressed, and then they become a benefit to you and to themselves. So it's just is it willing to take the bit of time out to teach them, and then they can then do a bit more and be more independent. So it's just the people that are willing to see potential in an apprentice. But yeah, I think if we don't invest more into it, that it's like with the bricklaying trade, not many people see it as like a potential career, and apprentices that do are maybe taught the best and they're taken advantage of, so they'd leave. So I think definitely investing time and money into it is very important.
Sorry, Andy. Andrew Maslin's been back in touch, who got laid off. Oh, sorry. Let me just get his comment back up. We asked what happened. He said he's not sure if it's along the same lines as you've currently been talking about. He's just tuned in. Their excuse for laying him off was because of COVID, although he'd never been given a reason for them to lay him off. He was the only one to get the boot. They kept other workers. Andrew, thanks for letting us know. I would say if that is, whatever reason they've given, go and speak to Citizens Advice Bureau, get an appointment. I think they're probably doing it over the phone these days with COVID, but get advice. Listen, if you've gone all that way and they've laid you off at the end, I think as far as we're concerned, that isn't fair or justified. So go and get some advice on that. Yeah, Andy, sorry, I interrupted you because Andrew got back to us. Apologies.
Yeah, we were just talking about young people and going into it. My worry was with apprenticeships these days is the trades. And I think we have to maybe blame the industry itself for this, or maybe television. It doesn't seem like the young ones want to go into it anymore. I mean, my kids are 14 and 12, and they think they're going to be bloody like YouTubers or TikTok stars, And I think, come on, And I remember the reason I became an electrician is because my dad drummed into me when I was 15, 16. He said, you have to get a trade. You get a trade. If you can get a trade, you can always fall back on that. You can go off and do different things, and you can always fall back on it. And I have gone off and done different jobs throughout the past. And I always come back to this because I can. And because if you've got probably a proper apprenticeship, that is something you've got for life. And it's just the same as doing a degree in university, you know, maybe even more, because it takes us 4 or 5 years plus the practical stuff we do on site. But I do worry that the young'uns of today look at it and go, oh, I'm not gonna go and do hard work like that. I'm not gonna get dirty and I'm not gonna get dusty. I know that's my own kids say this sort of thing. So we need, I mean, the best thing on television for trades is DIY SOS, because people watch that and there's all a lovely bunch of guys. But the worst thing is Rogue Traders, that TV program on there. All it is looking at the bad trades all the time. I just worry that people watch that and go, yeah, trade isn't the business to get into. So we need some sort of big campaign, don't we, to get, you know, young people interested in it. I don't know what the best way that to do would be.
Well,
I think it's just, sorry, go on.
So I was just going to say, there's a couple of charities. Volunteer It Yourself is one. One of the guys that runs that, called Tim, I had a meeting with him before lockdown, and it's a great charity that's now getting a lot of funding, that are going into, let's say, an old sports hall that's run down, a music centre that's run down, and they're getting grants for youngsters locally to come in and learn from mentors such as yourself, Andy, about you know, how to chase cables and stuff. So there is stuff coming through. One thing I'd like to ask, and I'm a bit like you, Andy, we're quite old school now. My view on these current apprenticeships, I want to hear Beth, somebody that's recently come into apprenticeships, Andy, someone that did it in the 1850s. Now, the apprenticeships, in my view, aren't up to date. What I mean by that is, I think each year, with new products, new materials, new ways of working, new health and safety, blah, 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 everything needs to be changed. And as we said off air, more trades need to be involved in writing these apprenticeships. Beth, are you with that or against it?
No, I agree. It's the most frustrating thing because obviously I have only done it for 3 years, but even though I've been doing it for that little time, I can look at things and think, you will never use that on site. It's never going to be beneficial now. It's so like old school, and like what you can tell people that have wrote it that don't know anything about construction or individual trades. So then it's frustrating that you're having to sit there and lose time on site to learn a load of rubbish, really. It's just a waste of time, and it's no benefit anymore learning stuff like that. If it's not updated to what it is now, what's the point in learning it?
Andy, you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you're right. What you were saying is the people at the top that are in charge of these apprenticeships, I wonder if any of them have ever been on the tools. Some of the people I met coming up through when I was young, I looked at it, I think I don't think you've ever been on a building site in your life. Yeah. So it should be, and like we said off air, I think it's because people think that we're all stupid and we don't know how to read and write. But they should have I don't know, maybe they have, but they should have an advisory panel of people like us who are actually on the tools, work with apprentices and have been apprentices, to advise them and say, this is the way we should be doing it. Because I know there's some sort of organisation that does go into schools to do with engineering. I've forgotten the name of it now. And they try and get kids interested. I think it's more railway engineering. But we should have some sort of program where we're going in the schools and, you know, telling them that we're not crazy people, we're actually quite normal. And then we just need to get more young'uns interested in it, because it is probably run by people that have never put on a pair of overalls in their life.
It's just a missed opportunity not having trades do this. Like people like yourself and people with all that experience. Why are we not using those people with all that experience, all that knowledge, and passing it over like that instead of having people that know nothing about it? It's just such a missed opportunity. Really
There's always been a big gulf between what I call the office workers in construction, or the suits as they're called on site, and us trades. And we're looked at as almost two totally separate entities. And I think, Beth, you said this off air, we're undervalued. We're looked at as these thickos that run the line, put on a hit on the walls, rub down, whatever trade you're doing. But actually, tapping into our experience and keeping apprenticeships updated is going to encourage more people to do it.
Yeah, nothing frustrates me more when you're on site doing something, especially like people I work with, and they're spoke down to, they're made to feel like they're idiots and like they know best. I just think sometimes the respect and like the mutual, like, yeah, you work in the office and you might be higher up, but these people like get you out of problems with their knowledge, fixing stuff like you wouldn't know how to, and it's so frustrating that we come across as just a skill or just as bricklayers, because if you actually attempted it yourself, you would see that it's not easy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think. Sorry, one comment. Apologies, they're coming in thick and fast. J.M. Hayes, I did a mechanical engineering apprenticeship. The knowledge I gained from old boys, inverted commas, he's probably referring to the likes of you and me, Andy, was valuable and couldn't be learned from a book, to be honest. Now, the first bricklayer I learned off, he was 63. He was called Dick the Brick. And if you look up bricklayer in a dictionary, there's a picture of him. Jogging bottoms, arse hanging out, roll up fag on the go, no hair. And I tell you what, he was the best bricklayer in the world. He would run a line facing the other way, having a conversation with the labourer about what they're having for tea that night because it was his son. I don't think you can gain that experience from anything apart from working alongside them. And Andy, would you like to see more mentors in apprenticeships? Because classroom base for a plasterer ain't going to work, is it?
Yeah, you need the word is mentors, isn't it? It's so I actually had a brilliant college course because the company I worked for had their own private training school, so the people running it did it completely different from a college. And I do think it all depends on the lecturer in the college whether you have a good experience or not. But there's so much they can teach you. But the old boys, I remember when I came out of college, I worked with these two old guys. They were both, like you say, in their 60s, and I was trying to drill holes to get cables through. And they went, whoa, what are you doing? You need to drill one down like that and then the other one down like that. And they called it hills and valleys. Like, they didn't teach me that in college. I didn't know anything about that. So, and the guy, that old guy, I worked with him until he retired, and my whole apprenticeship with him. Oh my God, I learned so much from him. He was the most laid back. Oh, of course, that would be this, that, and that. And it was testing I was doing. The reason that's that because of this. Never learned that in college. So he was like my mentor, I suppose. So we do need these sort of figureheads, these mentors to look up to. And I still think that's what we need to go out more widely and try and get, I keep going on about it, to get young'uns in. Then you need someone to look up to, don't they? Like I looked up to that guy and you looked up to Dick the Brick.
Well, I think the big thing for me, and the reason I got into construction, I was told at school, basically go to university or college and be successful as a doctor or solicitor, or if you fail, become an estate agent or a builder. And I thought, hang on a second. And I didn't do great at school. My exam results had a lot of vowels in, and there weren't any A's. So I'll give you an idea where that was heading. But the big thing for me, as youngsters, you said, Andy, about your kids, that everyone's looking at social media, YouTubing and TikToking or whatever it is. And there's no one coming into schools, well, there are, but they're not doing it in the right way, saying construction's brilliant. You can be a bricklayer, you can be an electrician, you can be a site manager, you can do health and safety. Some trades, people don't realize this, some trades, especially in big cities, are earning decent money. Rather than just digging a hole on minimum wage, you can do well as a career, become self-employed. Do we need more government bodies, federations going into schools saying construction's great? Katie, Beth, did you have anyone come into your school encouraging you, or was it just something you wanted to do?
I had a college come in that was obviously where I ended up doing my multi-skilled, but it was just on like a, what do you call them? Like
there he is again.
Sorry, Beth, I have an ice cream van that haunts me at the. Yep, here we go. 10 to 1.
He's always on time. He's always on time.
Yeah, it's pouring down here. He's not going to be around long. Don't worry. Sorry, Beth.
But no, there was like a PowerPoint presentation in the back, and they're just clicking through, talk about it, and there's just images of like people stood there holding a trowel, and it's just the imagery and the way it's presented is absolutely daft. Like I just look at it and think, no one. Like then if people look at that thinking, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, then they get on site and they're like, it's cold, it's wet. It's hard work. I'm going home and going straight to bed. It's just not promoted right anymore. Like there's a company that I did this enterprise day for, and they got primary school kids like foam bricks, and it was like a sand mix, and he was pointing trowels, and it was like it was all like primary school kids, and it was like building pillars and like working in groups and doing things like that. And I thought that is such like an amazing little thing that they was doing, but then it's for primary school. When they maybe get older, that might not be still in the back of the mind. But I think to promote a trade, you need to let them be hands-on and not just speak to them. You have to like let them have a go and then like work out for themselves. Yeah, this is fun. I'd like to do this maybe when I come to pick my options, not just speak at people. It don't return.
I think one thing I'd like to say, Beth, you're obviously not one of these, and there's a few people that aren't in this category. But Andy, we've talked about this before. a lot of youngsters are addicted to their phone, and the work ethic of getting up early, grafting all day seems to have gone. What is the best way of encouraging these youngsters? Young labourers are the worst. It's the hardest trade in my eyes to find, because they're stuck on their phone. They go out the night before, turn the phone off, and you can't get hold of them. What's the best way? Do you think it is getting into schools? And if so, are we talking primary schools or secondary schools?
I don't know. I don't know what the best way to combat this phone situation is. I mean, because even in schools, they're on the. I don't think you can legally take the phone off them. That's a blooming nightmare. You just got to depend on them being a good moral person, I suppose, that they're going to put their phone away. I mean, that is a nightmare for people who've got apprentices on
That's
site.
awful. Yeah.
It must be hard.
I think one thing, the other thing, which my youngest, he is 6, and his little primary school, I think at that age the kids love playing with their hands and doing stuff, building stuff. That's what's in us, and it's almost forced out of us as we progress through school. And I spoke to his headmistress and built them a couple of little storage things in the playground, because their bikes and stuff were getting wet. But one thing they said was, schools are under budgeted, we know that, but it's having these things. And I think this is where us as an industry can do stuff, taking bits of wood, taking half round gutters in, because they build slides and pour water down. They learn how to put bits of wood together, and that will encourage them to do this longer. And my little lad, the head teacher was saying they were paying 20 quid for a little bag of wood. I'm thinking, I feel skips with offcuts. And we need to encourage youngsters more, not pull them away from this sort of skill and push them into Pythagoras' theorem, which is quite frankly never going to be used.
Then they get a sprinter and then sue you. They can't even play conquerors, can they, at school? So giving them offcuts of wood, even though that would be the sensible thing to do. We're such a political correct sort of world now. I can't even see a teacher giving them a piece of wood to play with. I don't know, I may be wrong, but it just seems like we can't do anything in primary schools. And that is that guy going doing that bricklaying with bricks. Let's do more stuff like that. It's fantastic.
It is. Now we're coming, unfortunately, we've got a few minutes left. Curtis New has sent a very applicable comment in. I'd love to hear, Beth, first. What do you think is going to happen with the apprenticeship qualifications with this coronavirus? How have you been affected on yours?
Mine's just been extended, but I know a few apprentices, obviously the one that commented as well, like being laid off. But if I was to be like laid off so close to the end, I would be so mad beyond belief, because 3 years, I hope no one gets laid off, because obviously the government are paying fairly, so there's no reason why companies should lay off apprentices when they're not paying for them while they're off. So now, like, step 2 are being introduced, slowly going back. I think, I don't know. It'd be ridiculous to waste all that time, and obviously the investment that's been put into people, it'd just be a shame.
Andy, do you think we're going to end up losing a few more people through this unfair situation being blamed for coronavirus? Because there's a talk, isn't there, a lot of redundancies, and I think apprentices are going to be hit hardest.
Yeah, but like I say, I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on anything. But when I did my apprenticeship, I had to sign some what they call indentures, some indenture papers at the beginning of it, and that meant that they were legally obliged to see me through my apprenticeship, unless I did something crazy and killed someone or turned up drunk or something. So they were legally obliged, no matter what happens to the company, to see me through my apprenticeship. I don't know whether that's changed, but I would definitely get some advice if you've been laid off as an apprentice, because I'm sure that if you're in a government scheme and they're paying for your training, they've got to see it through. If not, you should go to the training provider and at least see whether you can finish the qualification with them. But I would double check that, because it's sickening to hear that. Because you're so young. It's really not right, that is it?
It's not, and there's a few people getting in touch saying that Phil Reeves has said it's an easy out for companies. I presume he's referring to blaming coronavirus, because it's unprecedented. We've not had this before, and quite honestly, a lot of people can use it as an excuse. Just to finish off, we're coming to the end of the show. Half an hour has flown by. Beth, you are coming to the end of your apprenticeship. You are suddenly in charge at the powers that be. What would you change for the better and worse being an apprentice in construction?
I think what needs to change for apprentices as a whole?
Yeah, what bits do you think could be better, and which bits do you think you would change? What are the sort of main things, or do you think it's been great all the way through?
I've enjoyed mine, but I think a lot support needs to be better for apprentices. Like for me now, I'm coming to self-employed, and I have people like my mum and dad are self-employed, so I've got the steps and support there to how I can progress onto that. But some people might not be ready. Some people might not know what they're supposed to do. And I think just support throughout and at the beginning, help people get apprenticeships, help people when it's towards the end, not just, right, thanks for helping us out and promoting our apprenticeship scheme. And, we've got you through your qualification. Thanks a lot. Good luck and all the best with your future. Just support needs to be it needs to be better in between, at the end and at the beginning. I think that's the most important thing.
Andy, just to finish off, apprentices, obviously, I was going to say they've changed since we did them. Have they? By the sounds of it, probably not been updated that much. Which main areas would you look at changing as an apprentice across all trades? What are the big sort of areas we can change for the positive to get more people in and more people to stay in?
The image of it. That definitely needs working on. And like Beth was saying, that they came in and showed pictures of people with holding a trowel or those stock images and stuff, but they should show them what it looks like to work for yourself, and you get your own van and you drive around and you charge people what you want. They don't look that far down the line, because and you said earlier that the government should send people in. The government shouldn't do that, because they're sent a complete idiot that's never been on the tools, and it should be people like us going in there saying, this is what I've achieved as a self-employed electrician, builder, plumber, and this is what you can do. You can work for yourself, and I've got to go to university to do it. So the whole image of it needs changing. I just hope to God that someone does that and steps forward and says, right, this is what you need like a celebrity, I suppose, something like Billy from DIY SOS. I love him.
Yeah, no, I think just to finish with, listen, it's a great industry. It's 10% of the country's economy. It's clearly a lot of people doing it. Yes, there's some horrendous times when you get knocked or you're let down by materials not turning up. There's a lot of downsides, but I think a lot of us enjoy it still. Apprenticeships have got to be worked on. We've gone through a lot of really good ideas and comments, and thank you to everybody getting in touch. I'm sorry I can't read them all out. They're still flying in now. Bruno Brenchley, Ryan Hammond, Carl Turner. Sorry, I'm not going to have the chance to read them out. But I think just to finish with, it seems to be we need to modernise these apprenticeships. We need to, I think, have somebody like you, Andy, that's been doing it a long time, to ask your experience. And also, I think it would be good to have people like Beth that are coming to the end of their apprenticeships and where they can feel the industry can improve.
I think Beth's a good person.
Yeah,
because she's a woman as well, and there's just not enough women in trade. So she would be absolutely brilliant figurehead for it.
Well, it's almost some sort of body that needs to be set up, and I don't know if this is down to government or training bodies, but I think a good group of experienced and freshly qualified apprentices that actually get their hands dirty and have been on the tools are going to be far better than suits with perfectly shiny nails and shiny shoes and all the rest of it. But listen, I can get a bit carried away on that. Time has run out. Thank you, Beth, and I wish you all the best with your bricklaying. Unfortunately, you're up in Hull. Otherwise, if you were down this way, I would love a hand. Andy, as always, thanks ever so much. This has been Talking Trade Live with On the Tools. I think we've really put apprenticeships to bed. And watch this space, because it could be the three of us getting everyone into the industry soon. See you next week.